and welcome back to another video. I'm Shah and this is Thoroughly Enjoyed Books. Today I'm here to bring you a book haul. I haven't been buying very many books lately, partly because a lot of the books that I did buy recently were university books, which you'll have seen in my queer fiction reading list video, and then every other book that I've bought I've actually been getting to quite quickly, so I haven't had a pile stashing up of books that I haven't yet read, which is, I want to say, unlike me, but also I do have these phases where I buy maybe 3 or 4 books, get them read and then buy more, and I don't do hauls all the time. So I have a very small stash here of 5 books. I have read 4 of these books and I'm currently partway through another, so I don't want to make a wrap up without talking about them, so I'm going to get through them really quickly for you. So the first book I have is Affinity by Sarah Waters. This is a lesbian historical fiction novel and it's mostly set in a women's prison. This follows our main character, whose name I've completely forgotten, who has had a mental breakdown, and to help with her mental health her family set her to volunteer in a women's prison so she has female companionship, somebody to talk to. And while she is a volunteer at this prison, she does fall in love with one of the inmates, who it turns out is there for some sort of witchy type supernatural fraud. And throughout this book we follow their relationship, we follow the fraudulent part in particular, about whether or not our love interest can keep in touch with spirits or not, and what this means, and how mental health is linked to sexuality in historical fiction. Sarah Waters is fantastic. I'm actually going to be doing my master's dissertation on this book, so I really can't wait to get to it again, because I did read this book earlier this year. I listened to the audiobook and loved it and that's why I decided to do my dissertation on it, of course, but I want to read it again in physical form. I'm going to need to read it again in physical form to make notes and things, so this one is a book I'm really glad that I have, and I found this in a charity shop for £1, so very grateful that I didn't have to buy a brand new copy for like £8 that I was going to destroy, because for £1 I don't mind annotating this. And another book I have already talked about is Here is the Beehive by Sarah Crossan. This is about a woman called Anna who's been having an affair with Connor for the last 3 years. However, Connor unexpectedly dies and now Anna has to deal with the grief of this without being able to publicly grieve, and so she has to internalise all of her emotions, and it's just a really beautiful look at humanity. Without saying too much about what I thought of this book, because I have discussed it in a previous wrap up which I will leave links to, I just want to say that this book is my favourite book that I've read this year and that's a big spoiler for my end of year videos, of course, unless I read some more books in the next coming months that I absolutely adore. What I wanted to say about this book is that you cannot avoid the cheating in this book. I know a lot of people don't like cheating in books and they can't enjoy a book when that is the main focus, and that is very much the main focus of this book. I didn't know that when I bought it, even though it's very obvious on the blurb. I kind of just bought it as a cover buy. Importantly, it's also written in verse. Sarah Crossan writes a lot of her books in verse. I really want to get to Moonrise, which is a young adult book by her, and this is her first adult book. Also, how beautiful is it? Then we have The Black Flamingo by Dean Atta. This is another book that I bought because I was doing a read along that was hosted by Lois from Locan Reads, who I'll leave links to down below, as well as Jonathan, Isenia and Ansu and Manda, who I will leave links to everyone down below. We had a little group chat going on Twitter and we did little voice memos and video messages to each other through Marco Polo, which was really fun. This is a book about a young black boy and it follows him from childhood to university, coming to terms with his sex, his gender and his sexuality, and it is a lovely book. It basically follows his developing interest in drag. That isn't a spoiler because I think that's how this book is marketed, but also it doesn't really explore that until about halfway through this book. I would say in some ways it is a spoiler, but this is just about him really figuring out who he is. Again, it's a book written in verse, so you can get through it really quickly. And I just think that this is gorgeous, but also such a weird shape and size of a book, because even this one is a small hardback and this one's even smaller. Under the dust jacket we have this little gold flamingo as well, and then the end papers are pink feathers. So this is a really beautiful book. If you can get a hold of a copy of this yourself, I highly recommend it. It also has illustrations and like fun little layouts throughout it, which apparently are not in the US edition, so get yourself a UK edition if possible. Like I said, this is just a great book that explores intersectionality, what it's like to be gay in the black community, and what it is like to be mixed race, and there's just so much to discuss with this book, so I highly recommend people get it. It's beautiful. Okay, finally a book that I haven't read. I find it so hard to do a book haul without doing a wrap up as well. I have got Club Actually by Laura Lex. This is the silliest book that I've ever bought, and I bought this last week for myself because I was having a really crappy time, and I absolutely do not regret it in any way, shape or form. Klopp, Jurgen Klopp, is the Liverpool FC football manager, and this is a love story about him. It's about this one comedian, Laura Lex's fictionalized account of being married to him, so it's about her fantasies. So it's kind of like a fan fiction about Jurgen Klopp. Even before this book starts, the author talks about how she's got a lot of abuse on Twitter for this, how it's harassment or sexism, and I can kind of see that, so be wary of that going in. It is a bit weird. I don't necessarily like the fact that she's fantasizing about a real person, a person who is still alive, but also I thought it was going to be hilarious, so I picked it up. I have started it but not read it, so I can't talk too much else about it. But yes, I am a Liverpool supporter. I think Jurgen Klopp is fantastic. He is such a great manager. Maybe not so much this year, but as a person, he's hilarious and I love him to bits. So I just thought this would be a really fun pick-me-up. I'm not expecting anything too serious from this. I think it is just going to be a laugh, and hopefully it'll put a smile on my face. Silliest book published this year? I think so. And then the last book I have to share with you is a beautiful gift that I got from Shannon from 155 Books. This turned up on my doorstep on Tuesday, and I struggled to get out of bed on Tuesday. I sat and just wanted to cry, and I did cry on and off all day. I was so stressed with the looming elections. Even though I'm not American, the presidential election is huge. It affects the whole world. The second national lockdown has started today in England. I didn't know until literally this morning that it was only England. I thought Scotland and Wales were included, but they're not. It is literally just England. I was already feeling that day, and then I heard a thud at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I just thought, what on earth is that? I've not ordered anything. And when I picked up the parcel, it was an Amazon parcel. It was clearly a book that had been sent from my wish list, and when I opened it, this beautiful book was there. So this is The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald, which is one of my favourite books of all time, and Shannon picked it because she knew it was one of my favourite books and thought this edition was stunning, which it is. A little backstory about The Great Gatsby: I have read that book 3 times, and none of those times was a copy that I owned. I've never owned a copy of this book. I had a copy that I annotated in school, I had a copy that I rented from the library, and I had a copy that was on ebook, but I've never had a physical edition of it, and I thought because I love it so much, I only ever wanted a beautiful copy, and I'm so grateful that Shannon has sent me this because it is the beautiful copy of my dreams. Just look at it. The Great Gatsby, if you didn't know, is about the American dream. Very fitting for this time of year, actually. Very fitting with how my emotions were the other day. About Jay Gatsby, or James Gatz, who rebrands himself essentially into this rich, affluent, over-the-top man to get the attention of Daisy Buchanan. It's one of my favourite books. I love it. It's all about corruption and greed and money, and now it's so beautiful. So that was my very small, almost all read book haul. Do let me know if you've read any of these books, and if so, what did you think of them, because I'd love to talk to you about them. Highly recommend Here is the Beehive. I need more people to read it so I can discuss it with them. As usual, I will leave my links down below to my Twitter and my Goodreads and all that good stuff. Go and follow me on there and come and talk to me about books, and I can't wait to see you in another video very, very soon. Take care. Bye.